All right, so roughly when was it actually? About a month or so ago, Boxer had their last show with Sky Sports. Might have even been longer than that. They had their last show with Sky Sports. Future was kind of up in the air. It seemed that the safe bet, the smart money, would maybe be go to the Zone. At least that way, you have the four main UK promoters all on the one network because three of the big four in terms of UK promoters are on the Zone. Frank Warren, Eddie Hearn, and Izzy Azif. They're on the Zone. So it seemed logical that Ben Shalom would go from Sky to the Zone, especially if he wasn't going to renegotiate or re-sign with Sky. And then you kind of didn't really hear much. You heard whisperings of BBC iPlayer, not even BBC, just BBC iPlayer, and you're kind of looking at that thinking, really? I mean, like, okay, but would you not just? Is there a reason why you can't do the Zone or maybe a Netflix deal or something like that? And you did kind of worry because you're starting now to see people like Joshua Boazzi go and sign with Queensbury. There was kind of whispers, people were saying Adam Azim was looking at Frank Warren amongst others. So the Boxer stable, which is it's not a terrible stable by no stretch, but it's definitely getting thinner and thinner. I mean, I mentioned Joshua Boazzi, Okoli, Joseph Parker, Jack Cattrall. I think there's been someone else with Michael Hunter, Joseph Parker, if I didn't mention him already. They've all been part of Boxer. They've all signed to Boxer at one point. Some of them have fought on Boxer shows. Where are they all now? If they're not with Frank Warren, Jack Cattrall's case, he's with Eddie Hearn. They've all been and gone. Right? So the stable was thinning out in the ground. So you did kind of worry and wonder what the future held for Boxer. Well, Everything Boxing are reporting that Boxer and BBC, the British Broadcasting Board, or something like that. What does BBC stand for? British Broadcasting something, Communication or something like that. I think that's what it stands for. Well, basically, Boxer and the BBC have announced a deal as broken by Uncrowned and Yahoo. Ben Shalom's Boxer are now confirmed to have a new broadcast deal with the BBC. It will be live world-class professional boxing returning to Saturday night prime time television, and BBC iPlayer on free-to-air basis. So it will be on iPlayer, but it'll also be on BBC. I believe it says here, boxing being on BBC, this is from Everything Boxing, is a great network on BBC. Linear network is great for the health of sport. I thought he was saying it's a great network. I'd be like, well, geez, that's a blatant lie right there. But it is. So it basically saying it's going to be on BBC One or BBC Two. Whatever your opinions of the BBC are, they are terrestrial TV, like ITV, like Channel 5. We've seen what Channel 5 numbers do when people like Harlem Eubank fight. And Harlem Eubank isn't exactly Mr. Entertainment, no offence. But he's done phenomenal views on Channel 5. And Channel 5, again, it's more of one of the obscure Channel 5. It's more one of the obscure kind of terrestrial TV stations in the UK. BBC and ITV are number one and number two respectively. So for boxing to now be back on BBC, because it has been on BBC for a long time, hasn't it not? Honest to God, I couldn't tell you the last time a fight was on BBC that I certainly can recall. I think BBC might have shown, don't shoot me on this, or don't quote me on this, did BBC show Rackman Lewis 1? Because I'm pretty sure you can find I'm pretty sure Marvin Hagler was on. I don't think he was on commentary. I think he did punditry. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube. I'm sure that was BBC who did that. Lewis Hassim Rackman 1. That's the only one I can really think of. Because again, BBC haven't done boxing, God, for a long time, I don't think. It is interesting that they're getting back into it. And again, it's terrestrial TV. I mean, I spoke about Channel 5, them being terrestrial TV and the numbers that Harlem Eubank was doing. Can you imagine Ben Whittaker on BBC, the numbers he will do? He will do phenomenal numbers. Like, honestly, he will be doing mega numbers. And this is really good by Ben Shalom. I can't complain. I can't criticize him at all for this. It's a really, really good thing. Because Ben Shalom is now going to be doing some terrestrial TV, it's a great way, because some people are going to say, well, you've lost the Sky platform, marketability, etc. Going to BBC terrestrial TV, you are actually doing so good because, one, you are getting massive exposure. Terrestrial TV, anyone can watch it. You don't know what you're doing on a Saturday night. You don't have a Sky Sports subscription. There's boxing on free to air on BBC One, on BBC Two. Boom, I'll watch it. You're introduced to Ben Whittaker. You're introduced to Fraser Clark, etc. And actually, They're also reporting here that the first show could very well be on BBC with Boxer on September the 27th. The British heavyweight title fight between Fraser Clark and Jamie TKV is reportedly being targeted to headline that bout in Birmingham. Jamie TKV is from London. I'm not sure where Fraser Clark's from. You think you'd do that fight in London, but anyhow, look, Birmingham. Isn't that where Ben Whittaker's from? So maybe Ben Whittaker's going to be on that card as well. That would be phenomenal if you got Ben Whittaker, because he was meant to have a fight in September, actually. His last fight was in Birmingham. So that's phenomenal straight off the bat. That's a decent fight, decent scrap. Ben Whittaker, Fraser Clark. Ben Whittaker, Fraser Clark. God, that's not a decent scrap. Jamie TKV, Fraser Clark. That's a decent scrap, can't complain. So yeah, Ben Shalom, I've critiqued him aplenty. And no doubt, knowing him, I will critique him aplenty some more. But I got to give credit where it's due on this one. This is a good move. It is. At the end of the day, you don't want necessarily a monopoly in boxing with one network. And if I haven't already said it, to be able to get that exposure on free to air, it's how you're going to make stars of people. It really is. Because you're going to expose people like Fraser Clark, Ben Whittaker, etc., to millions upon millions of viewers. Millions upon millions of viewers, millions and millions of people. It's going to get their name out. And then who knows? I don't know what way they're... Obviously, you're not going to do pay-per-view on, BBC. And interestingly enough, the Ring Magazine haven't said anything about this, so I would imagine that means that maybe Ben Shalom, Ring Magazine, Turkey Al Sheikh, or maybe not exactly best buds now after this. Who knows? I'm only speculating with that one. But yeah, above all, I think this is actually a really, really good move for Ben Shalom and Boxer. I was worried when it was just iPlayer. I was thinking, is it going to be like one of these, press the red button and do this? But no, it looks like this is actually going to be Ben Shalom, just having it on terrestrial TV, free-to-air BBC. And yeah, one of the biggest, if not the biggest in the UK in terms of terrestrial TV. It's going to be, it probably is BBC. I don't watch either of them, so I couldn't really tell you, but just more people seem to know the BBC and talk about that than they do ITV. But they're the two main ones. So to be on that, and actually saying that ITV did do pay-per-views back in the day, so maybe they could do a BBC pay-per-view, who knows. But yeah, phenomenal. No commercials, obviously, as well. There'll be no ad breaks, so the shows would kind of get on with it, because BBC, for those who don't know, they don't do in the UK. It's the BBC is, well, it's public. Well, you pay your television license. I don't own a TV, right? Don't own one, so I need to pay one. But yeah, you pay that, and that goes towards the BBC. Therefore, they don't do commercials. So there's no ads on BBC, all right? So that's that. So yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below on that. I hope you enjoyed the video, people. If you could, smash the like button, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. Until next time, people, which will be later on today, I'll talk to you. Peace.